Fashion was never just about clothes, it was always about belonging. Before a woman asks who she is, she asks what to wear, and hidden inside that question is something far deeper. Will I be accepted? Will I be seen? Will I be safe? Trends promise answers. They whisper certainty in a world of doubt. Wear this. Buy that. Become this version of yourself. And for a while, it works. Compliments arrive. Mirrors feel kinder. Social signals soften. But then, quietly, something shifts. The outfit looks right, but feels wrong. This is where today's episode begins, because dressing from trends and dressing from the self are not the same act. In the last episodes, we spoke about what happens when a woman stops seeking approval, about the evolution of feminine power, about emotional opacity. Style is one of the last places where approval hides comfortably. Modern psychology tells us that clothing is a form of self-regulation. We dress not only for expression, but for emotional safety. Certain silhouettes reduce anxiety. Certain colors increase confidence. Certain aesthetics create distance or closeness. Trends exploit this. They offer ready-made identities at moments of inner uncertainty. The clean girl. The hyper-feminine muse. The dark feminine archetype. The minimalist intellectual. Each trend is a costume for a psychological state, and costumes are useful until they replace the body underneath. Dressing from trends often begins in moments of transition, a breakup, a career shift, a loss, an awakening. The psyche looks for structure before it finds truth. This is not weakness, it is adaptation. But individuation eventually asks a different question, not what is admired, but what is aligned. Dressing from the self begins with discomfort. You stand in front of your wardrobe and nothing feels honest, not because you have no style, but because the old language no longer fits. Psychologically, this is identity recalibration. Your nervous system has changed. Your values have shifted. Your tolerance for performance has lowered. So the body refuses certain clothes. Tightness feels intrusive. Excess feels noisy. Overdecoration feels dishonest. This is why many women say, "I don't know my style anymore." What they really mean is, "I am no longer who I was." Dressing from the self requires presence. You begin to notice sensation, how fabric feels on skin, how weight affects posture, how color affects mood. This is interoception, the ability to sense internal states. Research shows that women who are more interoceptively aware are less vulnerable to external validation loops. They don't dress to be corrected, they dress to be regulated. This is where fashion becomes psychological hygiene. You stop asking, "How does this look?" and start asking, "How does this hold me?" Cinema understands this shift intuitively. The moment a female character evolves, her wardrobe simplifies. Fewer accessories, stronger lines, more intentional repetition, not because she lacks imagination, but because she has found coherence. Coherence is rare and deeply unsettling to systems built on novelty. The fashion industry depends on dissatisfaction, but dressing from the self produces contentment, not boredom, not stagnation, but quiet authority. You repeat outfits. You invest slowly. You stop explaining your choices. This is often mistaken for losing femininity. In truth, it is reclaiming it. Femininity without performance becomes grounded. Sensuality without exhibition becomes embodied. Elegance without approval becomes power. This is why women in individuation often become style references without trying. They are not trend-forward, they are self-forward. The femme fatale we discussed earlier does not dress to attract, she dresses to define perimeter. Clothing becomes boundary, a coat that signals distance, a silhouette that slows approach, a palette that reflects inner temperature. This is not coldness, it is clarity. Modern psychology calls this self-concept clarity. The more defined the inner self, the less reactive the outer presentation. You are no longer chasing reinvention, you are refining. This refinement can feel invisible to others, but monumental internally. You no longer shop out of boredom. You no longer buy for fantasy lives. You dress for the life you inhabit. This is where self-care and style merge. Getting dressed becomes a ritual, not to impress, but to arrive. You begin to trust your eye again, not the algorithm, not the influencer, not the seasonal report, your eye. And with that trust comes a strange kind of freedom. You are no longer early. You are no longer late. You are on time with yourself. Dressing from the self does not reject trends, it contextualizes them. You may touch them lightly, adapt selectively, discard quickly. Nothing owns you. This is psychological maturity expressed in fabric, and it often coincides with a deeper shift. You stop needing to be legible. You stop curating relatability. You accept being misunderstood visually, because inner alignment has replaced outer consensus. This is not detachment, it is integration. The self does not need to announce itself, it recognizes itself. And when a woman dresses from that place, she becomes difficult to categorize, which is precisely the point. In the next episodes, we will explore why simplicity often appears after complexity, and how repetition in style signals inner stability rather than lack of creativity. Until then, notice what you reach for when no one is watching. That is not habit. That is truth.